I'm Charles Galdi, your host for Vision New England's Church in Action program. This week, we're talking about how churches are using Alpha as a tool for disciple making and evangelism. And we're talking with Lisa Oelerich, who has been at Alpha for more than 18 years and is currently the executive director of Alpha New England. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, good morning, Charles. Thanks so much for having us. Yeah.
Especially as you're fresh back from sabbatical, and I'm sure you've got a list of 75 things. Appreciate you making time for us.
Yeah. Oh, it's a joy.
Thanks. And for folks who don't know you, could you give us maybe a little bit of background about who are you? How'd you wind up at Alpha? Where do you come from? That kind of stuff.
Sure. I did not grow up in a Christian home. By trade, I'm a chef and event planner, and had lots of negative experiences with religious people in church early on in my career. And eventually got curious about faith, and I walked into Grace Chapel back in 2001, and I wound up on an Alpha course there, and came to faith. So, and I never graduated.
Interesting. You never graduated from Alpha?
Yeah.
What would you miss a week or something?
No. So the hope is that when your guests go through the course, that you can put them to work. So Pastor Richard Rhodes recruited me to help on the Alpha team, and then I never left from there.
And I did not know you were trained as a chef. So did you go? Is that professional training or was that learn as you go?
Yes, I went to culinary school in Sarasota, Florida, and I wound up back here to work for Westin Hotels.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
And so when you say you're from here, where originally?
Dartmouth, Mass, so South Coast.
And so, but you sound like someone I need to get to know better, because I do like good food, and you probably like cooking still.
I like to cook for friends. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Absolutely.
Well, what specialty is there? A cuisine that's yours or something else?
I love seafood and Caribbean flair sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
Because I learned in Florida. So.
Okay. Well, neat. Well, tell us a little bit about Alpha. So start with kind of the problem statement, because Alpha is looking to solve something, I think. And so what is Alpha trying to address, solve for, fill gaps in, or something else?
Yeah, well, we would say our mission is to encourage the church in its mission to help individuals explore, encounter, discover faith, and develop a relationship with Jesus. Mm-hmm. So really our mission is accomplished through the church. And we have this tool called Alpha, which is pretty effective. And so, we help church leaders implement it.
Okay. And so I heard in that different words than I used in the beginning, but did I capture it fair as like disciple making and spiritual formation and evangelism? Is that a fair way to think about it? Or am I?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we would say it's an evangelistic tool. It goes into basic discipleship, but also the team that you recruit to host it, they're being discipled. They're learning how to be on mission. They're learning how to share their faith, radical hospitality, and prayer. All of those things are byproducts as you go.
Now, it was clearly evangelistic for you.
Yes, it was. I thought I had some background in faith, but what I discovered every week as I listened to the talks, that I had questions and I couldn't articulate why I believed what I was taught to believe as a child. But Alpha helped me wrestle with my doubts, my questions, my objections.
What made you want to, how did Grace Chapel, that's going back a few years, but how did they position Alpha that you, as somebody who just kind of showed up at Grace, said, I think I'll go to that?
Yeah, it's really meant to be the front porch porch of your church. And so with Grace Chapel, it was an entry point. And so, I went with a friend. So it's people bringing people, really. People explore because they have a trusted friend who brings them. And that was the case for me. But it's the porch you can belong before you believe anything. And it's a safe space between the church and culture.
Now, looking back, was that friend as interested the way you were, or was that further along at that point and coming to be supportive of you and bring you into it?
They actually dropped out and I kept coming. So I'm not sure how far along she was in her own journey.
Okay. So Alpha's trying to be a kind of front door. It sounds like for people who, if I'm coming to church at that point, it sounds like the typical person, Alpha, is going to be someone who's on something of a faith journey. I've just gotten saved, maybe, or I'm exploring like you were. Is that the typical person who shows up, or is it a big mix?
I think when a church or ministry begins doing Alpha, they will naturally reach the seekers that are in their church or people who have lots of head knowledge, but maybe don't have a personal relationship. So when they start, those are things of guests that you would get on the course. But as you go along, what it helps a faith community do is create a culture of invitation. Because Alpha will die if Christians aren't inviting their non-Christian friends to come. And so I think the challenge for pastors is that they need to mobilize the people in the pews to go and invite friends. Hopefully they have non-Christians. That's the first challenge.
Yeah, for some, yeah.
But it's really meant for skeptics, cynics, it's amazing over the years, just people I've met at an Alpha table, and I get into conversation with them and I think, oh my gosh, they'll never come back. And they're back the next week, wrestling with the content and really the community at the table just loves them and prays for them. And, God is orchestrating things in their lives. So it's just been amazing over the years to see.
And so I want to come to some stories, but I want to poke at a couple of things first, because you paint the contrast of head knowledge versus relationship. Now, my understanding of Alpha is not that you're rejecting knowledge or intellect or anything like that. The difference between knowing about God and really knowing God.
Exactly.
Is that a fair way to think about it?
It definitely is. You can read a book about a particular topic and get knowledge, but it doesn't mean that you actually have practical experience about whatever it is you're reading. And it's the same thing with the Lord. So I think the Alpha content appeals to someone's head and heart and will. Yeah. So the talks are designed to engage all of those parts, the holistic.
Dave Ripper, who I know Dave uses the example of a guy in his church who knows everything about coffee, where it comes from, how it's made, how to pick the beans, how they harvest it, how they bring it to market, all that kind of stuff. But he doesn't drink coffee. So he doesn't actually know when he makes the coffee at church, whether it's any good. And exactly. Dave makes the point. So he knows all about coffee, but he doesn't know coffee.
Exactly. And I think there are lots of people in church today who that applies to. You may even think about them as being overcharged in the sense of having lots of knowledge. But I think the wrestling with the basics of the Christian faith on an Alpha course helps them apply it. How does this make sense for my daily life? And that's the challenge in making disciples.
Mm. And so I want to talk a little bit, do a little bit of deep dive about what people experience and what's happening in Alpha. Can you tell folks where it comes from? Where did Alpha start and how did it get here?
Sure. Alpha started, I think, in the 90s at a small church in central London. It began new believers course or members course
Okay.
at an Anglican church. And then it was given to Nicky Gumbel, a new vicar there. And he really had a heart to reach people outside the faith. And so he did some tweaking. He was running a course at the same time called Agnostics Anonymous, which what they found as they ran both courses together was people into faith through the alpha content versus the apologetics in the other course. And so he tweaked it a bit to help people have an encounter with Jesus for themselves. There's a time away, which is like a retreat, and just the practicing radical hospitality with prayer. So all of those elements, and it just exploded.
Yeah.
They run still to this day. They run it in lots of different spaces. And at the main church, they average 500 people on their alpha courses. Really, the age range, the average age is about 20 years old. So,
and we always think of you remember Clive Calver, I'm sure. He used to say that New England has a lot more in common with Old England than the rest of the US. And so if it works there, it's bound to work here.
Exactly. We definitely use Clive's line when we talk about it because we are post-Christian. And I think in the UK, Nicky would say that they're so far beyond that. They're actually pre-Christian right now.
Yeah.
Younger people don't have as many hang-ups about religion as prior years. So
yeah,
it's definitely a good tool for our time in our country.
And so describe the program, if you will, a little bit. How long does it last? What happens? What's being done at it?
Yeah, so I would call Alpha process evangelism. Helps take people through a process. There are a series of talks. Every Alpha has three main ingredients: connection, content, and conversation. And so the connection, your team is practicing radical welcome and hospitality. The content are these talks that build on each other. And the conversations in the small groups are designed to allow people to disagree